Hi, I'm Michael Stelmar. I've been an avid outdoorsman my entire life, and I've spent over a decade in the hunting and fishing industry. Today, we're going to learn how to put new fishing line on a spinning reel and a bait caster. So, the most important thing when getting ready to spool up a new reel is to ensure that you're using the appropriate pound test line. This is a Shimano Sahara 2500. And on the spool is where it'll typically list what your recommended poundage are. This one is 6 to 10 pounds. Today we're going to be using 120 yards of 10-pound test line. So for the next step, you want to lay your reel down flat. Then I'm going to show you the knot that we're going to use to attach your line to the reel. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a much thicker line. So the first thing you want to do is you want to tie a single overhand knot. And then snug that up. Once you've got that overhand knot tied, you want to wrap it around the spool with your bail open. And we're going to tie an arbor knot. So it's just a series of 2 overhand knots. So you want to do the first one, and then the second one, and you always want to be mindful that you keep this knot on the outside of the whole knot. So then you want to snug up both of these knots and then just pull it tight down to your spool. And once you get everything snugged up tight, you'll just take your clippers and clip off your tag end. And now you're ready to start winding line. All right. Now that we've got the line properly attached to the reel, the next thing we want to do is lay our spool down on a flat surface. I had to use a chair or I laid on the ground. Next, you want to close your bail. Then you want to take your line between your thumb and forefinger and kind of hold it up high and apply even pressure. And you want to start winding your line on your spool. So you always want to make sure that you're applying constant pressure with your finger and your thumb, and that you want the line to go on tight. If you don't, you'll have all kinds of tangles when you go to cast it the first time. So you want to start putting some line on, and then stop a little bit of the way through it and make sure that your line isn't tangling or kinking up. If it is, then you know you need to flip your spool over in the other direction. So then you just want to, if everything's working fine, just keep your constant pressure up and continue to reel until you've got about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch left before you hit the edge of the spool, just to allow for later on when you're fishing, you're probably not going to be able to put it on as tight. So you want to make sure that you've got plenty of room on your spool. Now that you've got your line all spooled up and you're about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch to the end, you can just go ahead and clip the line from the spool. And then you want to take the line, feed it back through the eyes of your rod, and then you can go ahead and tie on your hook or your lure and you're ready to fish. Now that we've finished the spinning reel, we're going to start on a bait casting reel. There's some similarities, but there's also some differences that we'll point out along the way. Just like the spinning reel, the most important thing is to make sure that you are using the proper pound test that your reel can handle. So a bait casting reel will also list its capacity. It's typically going to be on the gearbox underneath where the lever is. So if you flip your reel over, this one is rated for 12 pounds and 120 yards. So that's what we're going to use today. Now I'm going to show you how to tie the line onto a bait caster. We're going to use the arbor knot just like we did for the spinning reel, but it's a little bit different since there's not a bail and the spool is facing in a different direction than it is on a spinning reel. So first you want to take the line, and once again I'm using something a little thicker just so it's a little more visible, and you want to feed it through the eye of your line winder. And then you want to wrap it around the spool. So it's a little bit more difficult on a bait caster just because there's more parts in the way. So you might have to turn it over and work with a little bit to get it how you need it. once you've got your line back through where you're all on the same side, you're ready to start tying your arbor knot. So once again, you're going to tie an overhand knot in the tag end and cinch that down tight. Then you're going to take your other piece of line and you're going to tie it just like you did before. You're going to tie one overhand knot and then a second overhand knot, making sure to keep that first knot on the tag end outside of these second two knots. And you want to tighten the knot up and then just cinch it down. Once you get everything tight, then you can go ahead and just trim your tag end off again. And now you're ready to start spooling up your line. All right, now that we've got our line attached to the spool, it's time to start winding your line. This is another area where the bait caster differs from the spinning reel. The spinning reel, you just need to lay your spool flat on the ground and you can do it by yourself. With a bait caster, it's a little bit different. Since the way that the spool's shaped and the line's shaped, it needs to come off the spool and then go on to the reel in the same direction. So there's two ways to do it. You can either have a friend help, because you'll need a second set of hands where you can put the spool through a pencil and have them hold it with some tension, or you can buy a little portable line winder. And that will hold the spool in the correct position, and it will also keep tension on it. So that's what I'm going to do. So to keep a little bit of tension, and then just like before, you want to put your thumb and your forefinger a little bit up the rod to have consistent pressure on the line, and then you just want to start reeling. And you want to reel it kind of tight, and you want to make sure it seats nice and evenly on the reel. You do have a line winding guide on this reel that will help guide the line on there. And you just want to continue to crank until you're about that 1/8 of an inch to the end of the spool. You don't want to overfill it or then you'll get tangles. And you don't want to underfill it just because it will reduce your casting distance. So then you just want to keep spooling all the way up until the end. All right, now that we've gone over some of the similarities and the differences between the spinning reel and the bait casting reel, we're ready to fish.